Good afternoon, beautiful people. I hope everybody's had a great day and beginning of the week. Um, had a lot going on here at my house, so haven't been able to get on here. But something caught my eye, and it is something that I've been covering pretty hard on my channel. Um, and because it should be covered. Anyone who claims to be an investigative journalist, a child safety advocate, or if you just want to be a good person in general, um, you should be talking about, one case that you should be talking about is Emmanuel Haro and the horrible case behind it. But what I've seen is the LA Times has published an article, and it kind of hits on some of the stuff that I've hit on in some of my previous videos. And also, the people in the article, at least one of them, is hitting back. And what is he doing? He's deflecting and saying he didn't do that and do this. All of his incorrect grammar that makes them think that it makes him authentic in some way, and maybe it does to some people. However, when you're reporting on a 7-month-old little boy whose parents have obviously ended his life and hidden him somewhere, the last thing that you should be doing is using disses and dats and happen instead of happens. And I mean, it's just ridiculous. But regardless, let me just tell you what I saw. Okay. Now, as I said, I've been following this case, since the beginning, and let's start right here. One night, Dolly Vision's place page had been, saying bits and pieces about the Emmanuel Haro case on their page. But that's just like they always just say bits and pieces about Jack and Lily Sullivan and bits and pieces about Summer Wells and every other child who's still missing. Now, if you don't know who Dolly Vision is, that's Jimmy Williams, and he was one of the people who were arrested for standing in the middle of the road in front of Quentin Simon's mother's home, Leilani Simon, when he was missing, with their bullhorns hollering, "Where the baby? Where the baby? Where the baby?" And all this. And they were arrested. I don't know what their charges were. I'm sure it was probably something about, disturbing the peace, maybe disorderly conduct, harassment. Who knows? I don't know that. But I just know that he was arrested, and I've seen his mugshot for it, and I've seen the footage. So let's get up now. After all that happened, he went and did some investigating, if he, looking for Sebastian Rogers and Summer Wells and all that. But pretty much after that, that's when his YouTube channel, took off. Well, from that point on, he took to sitting in a chair, coming on live once or twice a day for several hours doing lives. And just, like I said, talking bits and pieces of this and bits and pieces of that. No longer actually on the boots on the ground looking for people or children or infants. And constantly talking about how we need to get the subs up because we need to get all these subs because it has to pay for this channel. I mean, the problem is, if you're going to have a channel where your whole thing is you want to help with looking for missing and endangered children or people, adults, whatever. And 50% of your content, if you were to break it down clip by clip, is you talking about how you need to get your subs up, need to get them donations in. that means that 50% of your brain, when you're actually on there talking about these cases, is focused on money. When 100% of your brain should be focused on finding these missing and endangered children. As you can see, I'm a small channel. I don't have very many followers at all, but at no time do you ever hear me asking you for donations. Yes, I always do hey, do those things that YouTube likes for you to do. Click that like button, subscribe if, it's free. It's the best way to support the channel. Hit your bell so you get notifications when I drop new content. Yes, I do that. But not because I want money out of it, because I want these videos to get into the algorithm so that more people will see them, so that more people will know about these cases. It is about educating. It is about making people aware of what's going on. Okay, so let's get back now to the LA Times. Now, I will agree, there's some things in there that, I don't know. And you have this when anyone working for a large-scale newspaper does an article, you have to understand that there's probably going to be some of the information in there that is just them adding in a little bit of spice to keep people interested or to keep people coming back if they're going to do a series. But this is my problem with this letter, is that now you have one of the people mentioned in this article on here defending himself, saying that I didn't do this, I didn't do that. Beg to differ, sir, because I was watching you live. I literally was watching his channel live when he pulled up for the very first time in front of the Haro home. And the first thing that he did was, again, we need to get these subs up. I need donations. I had to pay for my plane ticket out here. I had to pay for this rental car. I got to pay for somewhere for me to stay. Well, if you didn't have the money to do that, sir, then maybe you shouldn't have done it. But you dang sure don't need to be dry begging for other people's money because you maybe made a bad financial decision. Are you there for money, or are you there to help find that boy? Then, there was a few other people out there, but you have to understand also that they had been set up a little memorial thing out there. There were candles, teddy bears, signs, and that's to be expected. That always happens, and that is what needs to happen. People need to be out there, and whatever you do, whatever calls you, like whether you send off prayers or send good juju or just thoughts or however you do it, go out there and do that, because this kid needs, he's a 7-month-old baby. We all know now what his fate was. Back then we didn't. But still, we still haven't found him yet, and he still needs to be found. Anyway, so there was people out there, and it was pretty calm until he gets out of the car and start talking about how I'll go pinch a tent in their front yard if I have to. I'll go up to the front door and ask the man. I'll camp out on his couch. Basically instigating these people. And when you have such a high emotional situation, and then you have a person like that come out and start instigating, it fuels that fire. Okay, and that's what happened. And then OntheTira, who has been investigating this case since way before Dolly Vision came on the scene. OntheTira, he's a licensed personal investigator. He had been out there investigating the case, and he was doing it within the confines of the law because he knows what he can do and what he cannot do. Okay? So in other words, had he trespassed the property? Nope, never. Did he have drone footage? Sure did. Because why? Because he's not trespassing the property. But yeah, he had been doing a lot of work on this case before, Dolly Vision ever got out there, right? And so here's, as the night goes on, cops pull up the first time. Everybody's standing out there. Now, I can be honest with you. I don't know who it was that trespassed the property the first time, but that particular sheriff pulled up, talked to everybody that was out there. This was before OntheTira showed up. And said that, asked everybody that was out there, have y'all seen anybody on the property? Because this property, like, they were on the street, and there was a very large privacy fence that went around the house. And then there was also part of it was like the normal privacy fence, the wood privacy fence, and then it changed into like the chain links, and it had a nice gate on the front of it, and around the side of the house, I mean, it was all that chain link fence. So if you went around there, you could actually see all the way into their yard and the house and the back of the house and all that. Okay, so they told the sheriff, no, we haven't seen anybody. All right, well, that sheriff leaves. Okay, well, more people start showing up. Why did they start showing up? Because Dolly's out there instigating people. You had people out there going live on their TikTok streams showing, hey, look, this big YouTube channel, who claims that he's a real deal, and he's better than everybody else. He's the real deal. He's out here. Y'all get out here, and that's what happened. So you had more people show up, more people show up. All right. It gets louder and louder and louder. Okay. Well, here's what happens next. And I'm watching this live, folks. Okay, what happens next is, did I lose? What happens next is there's a lady out there who showed up initially to put, oh boy, hold on, y'all. Oh, Mike, I didn't charge it. And I don't know if it's. That's okay. We're just going to go off the mic that's on this. It'll be fine. A woman shows up. And she initially had showed up out there to place a candle or a teddy bear at the memorial. But of course, she gets caught up in this instigated crowd. And she has her granddaughter with her. Her granddaughter looked to be somewhere between the ages of maybe 10 and 12. Dolly, aka Jimmy Williams, talks this woman into taking his camera setup, what he's using to film with, and trespass their property. Literally, he gave her the camera and he said, if you will, because he was talking about how, he was too scared to go on the property. He didn't want to get arrested. So this lady takes his camera along with her granddaughter, and they go down the side of the property. Okay, that's trespassing the property. Now, they go all the way down to the door that goes onto these people's front porch where their Ring doorbell camera is. And the lady actually says, while she's doing this, she said, yeah, I'm doing this dude's job for him because he's too scared to do it. And they walk up to that door. That Ring doorbell camera's right there. Her little granddaughter starts pushing the button on the Ring doorbell camera, going, where's Emmanuel? Where's Emmanuel? This is a little girl. Okay. And Dolly has let this woman, just this lay person who has come out there to pay homage to this little boy, and put her in a life-threatening situation with her little granddaughter. Because, hey, we're not talking about people who are in their right minds. Why? Because they took the life of their 7-month-old little baby boy and then made up this elaborate story about him being abducted. And for real, we don't know where he is, but we know he's no longer with us. Okay, so these are not people who are in their right mind, and take into consideration that this is a felon who is still on probation from the assault on his older daughter. And he was just arrested the year before for having possession of a firearm, felon in possession of a firearm. This is a dangerous person. And Dolly gave his camera setup to this woman and her little granddaughter to trespass the property. to go up to that front door, to ring that doorbell. That little girl's out there. What if that crazy man had gotten his pew-pew and shot both of them? What would have happened? Okay, so now are we supposed to really believe Dolly? Oh, yes, I do think that I'm a step above the rest. I do believe that I do this and I do that. Yeah. No, what you did was you came out there and you instigated a peaceful crowd into becoming just, got them all riled up. Then number two, you put this woman and her granddaughter's life into jeopardy by sending them onto the property with your camera set up. That man could have shot both of them. Okay, not long after that, that's when police showed up for the second time that night. Oh, but amazingly, when that police officer showed up, who backed up off of the crowd? Dolly did. You can see him. He backs up away from the crowd. Don't want nothing to do with that cop. Nope, don't want nothing to do with that. Okay, excuse me, I got to get my coffee. And yep, I'm drinking coffee at 5:50 in the evening, but that's how I do it. Sorry about that. Okay, so, and the cop says, we've got another call for trespass. Y'all know anything about that? Because not only was that lady, Dolly sent his personal setup with that lady. Now, because a bunch of the other people in the crowd see this lady doing that, they decide, well, we're going to go around and we're going to surround the house. So literally at that point in time, when that little girl was ringing the Ring doorbell camera, there were people completely surrounding that house. Now, are these people scum? Yes, they are. However, at that point in time, they had not been charged with any crime. So I have something, just wait on it. I'm gonna finish that part up later. Okay, now, but like I said, this is police coming, sheriff's department showing up for the second time. Oh no, we don't know what you're talking about. Blah blah blah. All right, well, that sheriff leaves. Okay, well, that's when OntheTira shows up, right? And, I'm not sure why OntheTira showed up. I don't know if he saw Dolly out there, or he may just been coming out there just to do a little, video coverage. I don't know. But he shows up, and of course, Dolly, gets to talking with him, and, basically OntheTira had no idea who Dolly was, and Dolly tells him who he is, and they talk shop for a minute, and then they're videoing each other in front of the, next thing that happens, because like I said, OntheTira gets out there, like I said, the crowd is getting louder and louder, yelling things and all this. Understand now that there are other homes right there. Other people living right there because they're out in the street. So finally, this other man from across the street comes outside and was asking them, hey, can y'all please stop? Y'all are being loud. This is my home. I see what you're doing and I understand, but I live over here and you're interfering with my evening. Can you please just stop or, lower the noise? Well, again, like I said, the attitude of the crowd was just so ramped up. He got into an altercation with OntheTira. OntheTira is a cancer patient. Okay. This cancer patient, and I'm telling you, because he was riled up with the crowd as a result of Dolly being there and doing his thing. OntheTira gets into a physical altercation with this neighbor. That's when the cops showed up for the third time. Which, now let me say something about that. Again, these people, are they scum? Yep. But at this point in time, they had not been charged with a crime, right? So technically, all right, the first time the cops showed up, he really didn't have anything to arrest anybody on because at that point in time, everything was still pretty chill. But the second time that he showed up, the crowd was bigger. He should have, at the very least, that sheriff should have told everybody, look, y'all need to move on. I'm sorry, but I understand why you feel the way that you do. If you want to come here and place a sign for Emmanuel or light a candle for him or put a gift for him, that is fine. But as far as all the filming that y'all are doing and all this kind of stuff, and move on. Do your memorial, but y'all need to move on, because this is a neighborhood, and this is the second time that we've got called out here for trespassing, and y'all just need to move on. That's what that sheriff should have done, but he didn't. And most certainly, the third time that the sheriff's office was called, and this is Riverside Sheriff's Department, because their house is in Riverside County. So these just all three times Riverside County sheriffs. The third time that the sheriff's department was called out there for the fight that ensued, at that point in time, yes, number one, everybody should have been ordered to leave. Again, these people have not been charged with any crime yet. So these are people. These are citizens. Now, the whole reason that they're out there the third time is because neighbors are tired of listening to the yelling and all that has ensued since Dolly Vision showed up. Okay? So, the sheriff comes out there the third time. He talks to the two people in the fight, and basically he sends the neighbor back into his house. But, big but, as he did not order anybody to leave, so you have a large crowd, okay? Didn't order anybody to leave, and as they're leaving, there are members of this crowd. This man has a privacy fence up as well. And his is, it didn't look like it was quite as tall as the one in front of the Haro home. He is out in his yard trying to grill out, okay? And as the cops are leaving, the people in this crowd, because they've been instigated, have their cell phones, and they're walking up to his privacy fence. This is the neighbor now. The neighbor walks up to his privacy fence. They're putting their phone, got their heads up over the top of the privacy fence. They're putting their phones up there. They're videotaping him grilling. They're taunting him. They're singing, na, 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 hey, 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 goodbye. Okay, well, that's shit. Sorry. Excuse me for my language. Because number one, you made yourself look like rednecks, okay? Number two, again, the cops are seeing this and they did nothing. So that man's getting harassed now, and he's not even part of it. And the sheriff saw this happening. So this isn't just a video about what happened out there and blah, 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 and da, 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 da. I'm talking about the sheriff's department too, okay? Now, after the third time that the sheriff showed up, that's when, Dolly went off the air. He said, I'm going to shut down now. He said, I'm going to stay out here, and if anything else happens, I'll film it. But, it wasn't long after that the sheriff's department had to arrest these people in the early morning hours. Why do you think that they had to do that? They had to do that because they saw that now there's a whole new element to what's going on outside that home, and these people are inside that home. The sheriff's department has taken their car in as evidence, so these people cannot leave other than on foot. So, I believe this was wholeheartedly, I believe that they had to do arrest prematurely because they knew that if they didn't, something bad was going to happen out there at that house. And why is that? Nothing was going on out there other than a peaceful memorial until Dolly showed up. Okay, so now you have, like I said, you have this LA Times guy who writes up this article, and Oh, yeah. And he said that he talked to Dolly, and Dolly talked about how he considered himself just above the rest and, all this stuff. And he was better than those TikTokers and blah, blah, blah. And he said something else about OntheTira. Here's the thing. OntheTira was doing just fine. He was getting evidence. He was turning evidence over to the sheriff's department. And there weren't horrible group fighting going on out in front of this home. People weren't getting harassed until Dolly showed up. Okay. Now, let's go into this. So, as I said, they arrest these people. Well, now you have another problem, because when the sheriff's department, like I said, this is a dual fault post. When the sheriff's department arrested these people, they brought their little Bearcat out, because California loves to use their Bearcats to totally tear up your home. Whether you are innocent or guilty, they do not care. They love to bring those Bearcats out and tear up your house. So they brought their little Bearcat out. They tore up the safety gate. Like I said, remember I said part of it was a wooden privacy fence, and then it turned into the chain links, and it had the safety gate, right? They knock down the safety gate with the Bearcat. Then the SWAT team goes in. They kick in the back door of the home. They arrest the people. Then crime scene shows up. They do their thing that they're doing out there. Now, consider they've already been out there before this time with search warrants, doing, searches of the home, this, that, and the third. Okay, so they breached the property, the safety gate. They breached the house. They came in, they did their thing, and then they left that house completely vulnerable, meaning that no safety gate to keep anybody out. And if they do get inside of the gate, no way to keep them out of the house either, because they kicked in the back door. Well, guess what happened? We get up Saturday morning to the Haro home, which is still a crime scene full of TikTokers. And what are they doing? They are charging people for crime scene tours of the Haro home. Yep, sure were. Do you think that would have happened if Dolly had not showed up and caused the big ruckus a couple of nights before? Because it had been pretty peaceful up until then. Yeah. But that's what happens when people show up. And he says that he's above the rest. Well, if you're above the rest, then why do you not know the law? Why do you conduct your investigations outside of the confines of the law? Why do you put innocent civilians' lives in danger for your content? Because that's what you did. That is exactly what you did. Not just any civilian, a little girl and her grandma. Okay? So that happened. So now any evidence that may have still been inside of that home involving little Emmanuel's disappearance has now been decimated. One of the first rules of investigation is you protect your crime scene. Did Riverside County Sheriff's Department protect their crime scene? No, they did not. They breached it. They went in, did this, did that, and then they left it open to the world. And because other people had seen, oh, look at what you can do, and the cops won't do anything. Look at this. Look at what all happened a couple of nights before, and the cops literally did nothing, guys. We can go and let's do this, this, and this. They're not going to arrest us. They didn't arrest them. Yeah, that's what happened. So, yeah, the crime scene. You should have at least had a sheriff stationed outside of that home until you could get it secured. That didn't happen either. Now, let's move on a little further. Well, you know what's happening that weekend? We have, they get arrested, and so it's kind of slow after that. Well, then on YouTube, we start seeing thumbnails popping up of what? of Dolly. What is Dolly doing? Dolly has taken all the money, I guess, that people had donated to his channel for his investigation of Emmanuel's disappearance, and Dolly has rented a red Lamborghini and has driven around Hollywood and posted it on his channel. Now, does that sound like somebody who really is above the rest and, considers himself a primo? Yeah, no, that's not at all. On top of the fact that he can't use proper grammar. This is a serious game, Jimmy. These are real children who are in danger. Okay? And OntheTira, he was doing fine without your problems. And you brought problems out there. Now, listen to what's happened now. OntheTira has been ordered by the Sheriff's Department to cease all investigations that he was doing in the Emmanuel Haro case. He cannot investigate it. He cannot post about it. He cannot even talk about it. Again, do you think that would have happened if Dolly had not shown up out there and completely just turned this whole thing up on its head? I mean, I'm sorry, but you call yourself a professional. You're not, sir. I'm sorry. If you want to be a professional, then act like a professional. Obey the law, sir. Obey the law. Don't have innocent little girls and their grandmothers break the law for your content. And don't use the money that people who support you, and they gave the money not to support you, but to support Emmanuel's case, to rent yourself a red Lamborghini and drive around Hollywood in it. So as far as the LA Times article that he is now on his channel live streaming, trying to defend himself, I didn't say this, I didn't say that, and blah, 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 blah. You deserve it. You deserve that. You deserve it. All right, guys. I mean, I know that's, I am fired up about it because I have felt this way about this case since all this happened. I have a problem with the way that the Sheriff's Department handled everything in this case. I have a problem with what this creep did, going out there, instigating a bunch of crap. And now the man who actually was doing things within the confines of the law and doing a good job of it OntheTira, now he's banned from doing anything to help. I mean, he's a local. He can get information that other people can't. He can get information that those cops can't, but now he can't. So, good job. Guys, I'm just saying, when you support someone, don't just please, I mean, watch how they handle things. I just totally feel like a lot of the things that happened in those 3 days led to the cops having to do a premature arrest. And had the cops not had to do a premature arrest on those people because of what was going on continually outside their home, I feel like maybe Emmanuel's parents probably would have led the Sheriff's Department to Emmanuel's body. Because people get paranoid when they've done something wrong and they're not arrested yet, but they realize that law enforcement is looking at them and is looking at them hard. They get paranoid. And then they start thinking, well, did I hide this good enough? Is nobody going to find it? Maybe I need to go re-hide it. I feel like that's probably what would have happened. And we could have at least given this little boy a proper burial. So, all right, guys. Y'all have a good evening. Be safe out there. And always, always, always know that you are loved. I love you guys. Bye.